Hello. Anyone around here speak basketball?
This is Adam Silver.
Vision 6-9. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball
Podcast.
I am your host, Freddie Rivas, and who, sir, with the not new at all but nice looking haircut are you?
I am your producer. I'm Matt Duncan. Thanks, Fred. You know, I'm just I'm in the stage of trimming your own hair to save money. Yeah, that's where I am, so can't say I've got, I'm running out of time with hair, so I figure why not get into my own styling now.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about cheap things earlier and switching to cheaper peanut butter. So why not? Yeah, the last couple years of your own hair, you start trimming it yourself.
Yeah, I'm about to get into the Peaky Blinders haircut style. That's I think what I'm going to go for. See how that works.
Still have never seen Peaky Blinders, but I'm imagining all comb overs. Is that what's going on?
It's like a weird half shaved, half like buzzed. It's a 1920s you do what you can kind of haircut.
Okay. Well, if you haven't guessed yet, we are a Raptors / NBA podcast. A little bit of Peaky Blinders on the side. Peaky Blinders. I don't know. That's a bad accent. I just feel like you got to say that name weird. Maddie, I love you. The best producer in the world. Let's get to bringing on some guests. Let's start with you first, Sean. And yeah, I mean, I think most people would agree the Raptors have been better with Poeltl. Certainly been more enjoyable to watch. We've talked before on this podcast last couple of weeks, sort of like who's benefiting, who's maybe having to like find other stuff to do on the court. But I guess, I'm wondering if from what you've seen or just what you believe, if you think that this current iteration of the Raptors have another gear this season, whether that's like into the playoffs or play-in / playoffs, or even these last 10 games, so putting away any changes that, may or not be made in the offseason, like with this core right now, do you think that, there's another higher gear?
Yeah, I think the offense can certainly be better. I think they're like 19th in offensive rating since the Yak trade, and I don't know about you guys, but they look a lot more fun on offense, and it makes more sense. There's more flow. There are things like pick and rolls and guys taking lots of threes and hitting lots of threes. There is real point guard play with the help of a center and roll gravity and all these things that kind of make offense a little bit easier to watch, a little easier to look at, and a little easier to turn into points for what the Raptors, for their end of things. And, I feel like we've seen, the results maybe not match the process necessarily so far. I think the defense is legit. I think they've been 9th since the Jakob trade, and that checks out. They just look, it all kind of comes together when you have an actual rim protector with all the dudes they have. It allows OG to be more aggressive. It allows Fred to, have a bit more insurance behind him. He's also just kind of gotten a step back on defense, it seemed, as well. Everyone seems revitalized by Yak. It's tough because there's not a lot of runway, right? And so they could still have this good process stuff and it still not translate to good results in the next 10 games. And I still think they're working some stuff out, like the best spots to get Pascal his looks, how you weave him in. Even Scotty, hopefully he's healthy. He's got the wrist thing, but he feels like the guy who's maybe been sort of incorporated the least, just as far as, all right, how is this guy getting his shots within the construct of what we do? OG's covered, Yak's covered, Fred's covered. They've gotten more post-ups and stuff for Pascal the last few games. I think they've got him covered. Now it's about weaving Scotty in, and I think they'll do it. It's just, will they have enough time before the playoffs? As far as like the gear, I thought this team was going to be like barbecue chicken in the first round against another team, and now they'll just be like slightly less overdone barbecue chicken, if that makes sense. Like, I think they could steal a game or two off of a second or third seed. The Bucks are horrifying. I don't know about them. I think they're the only serious team right now, and I think they're just like the very clear title favorite, screaming us at all of us in the face. But if they get Boston, who's not playing super hot, is very variance dependent. If you get Philly, who is Philly and has James Harden in the playoffs, like I feel like you could probably spook them a little. I don't think they're winning anything of note, but I don't think that necessarily matters. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like the first 14 games with Yak have kind of proven that the front office was right, that they were only a Yak, a Poeltl, or someone like that away from being pretty good. And B, I think it's kind of set themselves up. Like, they can just go into next season with this team if they really want to. They have the means to keep all of their pending UFAs if they get creative. And I think I'm all right. Like, they've just done their offseason. It's done now. They can just roll forward, and this team should be pretty good next season. This year's tough just because of the limited runway and the fact that the seeding and the play-in is going to limit their potential play-in or playoff matchups. But, yeah, overall, they're clearly better, and I think there's a little bit more to squeeze out specifically on the offensive end between now and the end of the season.
So many good points. I think, I'll start with sort of, I feel like Siakam and Scotty, and sort of this idea of kind of like occupying and making the most use out of the middle is key for this other gear, right? You have OG launching more from outside, which is like, okay, he's great. Fred working with Poeltl more, he's great. We've also seen a guy like Precious struggle more, I think, right? Not being able to be in the middle as much. And yeah, I think, you're starting to see it from Pascal. And I'm confident you'll see it as well from Scotty. But yeah, I totally agree there. The runway thing is sort of, it's why I brought up this question, because it's fascinating to me. Like, I think this team sort of is gelling in this final part of the season with the addition of Poeltl. But obviously, there's still variance like within our play. And like, it doesn't mean we're going to finish 8-2, right? So that's hard. And, to your offseason point, I don't know if me and you, are in like the minority here. And, you're the official like chairman of Run It Back. And I mean, I'm in that category too, also, because I feel like this team, you can look through the free agents we've used when we have, or free agents we've gotten when we have cap space. And it's not a very fun list. I think this team very much has to operate, in the luxury tax and make trades and develop. Like, I think that's how this market for the Raptors is going to work, especially with the way Messiah has operated in the past. But yeah, it's tricky. There's a lot of things going on. Dan, just before I get to you, a couple stats I wanted to throw out was that the Raptors in 9 games in March, this is the highest field goal percentage they've had all year. And
are they ahead of the Hornets finally?
We're probably barely ahead of the Hornets.
I think it's been like a season-long battle between the Hornets, Rockets, and Raptors for worst effective field goal percentage. And it's like top of the league. These guys are untouched. These are the elite cream of the crop at laying bricks. It's nice to see that March has maybe turned things around.
Yeah, it's turned things around a little bit. Also, highest free throw percentage by a small margin, and we're right up there with our close to our highest 3-point percentage, which is not that hard to beat. But they're in the month of March so far, we're shooting 37% from 3. So yeah, I think this team is looking healthier, I'll say. And just your last point, or last kind of comment on what you said, Sean, I do think it's not all for naught, but I do think that some of the higher seeds in the East are so strong that even with the improvement we're seeing from the Raptors, that, it will be difficult to have a competitive first round. I'm still very pro first round experience in general, but winning, I think, is not really a thing that, honestly, even before the season, I didn't really think that I thought this Raptors team was good in the regular season, but I
Mhm.
had major playoff doubts, and I think those playoff doubts are still there. Yeah, but Dan, hopefully we didn't take all the points away from you. Do you think this Raptors team has another gear?
Yeah, you guys took all the points away from me, so let's just move on.
Okay,
No,
cool. That's the pod, guys.
no, I do definitely agree with everything you guys said. And just to like Sean's point about the runway, it's like I kind of just feel like, you know, with media and fans, everybody wants everything to happen tomorrow, and it's like we kind of forget that these are human beings. They're young human beings. They're in their like in their 20s, so like mentally, like we want them to be perfect, but like things like people moving into different positions affect them emotionally. We don't see that. We don't think about it. We don't think about how like Malachi might be more upset that, you know, he's not going to get that Barton time, or we don't think about like that kind of weird stuff, right? But it's like they have to gel and they have to take the time to get that chemistry. And as much as we want it to just be like, let's make that happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen tomorrow. And I don't know if there's enough time this season for it to happen. I do see that like they are taking like little leaps every game. And if like Barton can start getting some baskets, for instance, or like if
he's only allowed one. Just one bucket. That's it.
Yeah, that's fine if you can get that. And if Precious can wake up, and like, you know, like we also have players coming, like kind of trying to get out of slumps, coming out of injuries. Like there's all these things that are kind of like, you know, we have 2 new players, so, and one of them took a starting position away from somebody. So it's like there are a whole bunch of things happening, and if we can get it together, maybe we can make that first round, like you said, a good experience for all the people on the team. And then maybe like a little tweak in the off season and we come back and kind of revisit this again. But like, I believe that like there's like a longer kind of approach going on. I don't think that like Masai is like, oh, man, I really thought we were going to win the whole thing this year. You know, like I think that like there's a big picture that we often don't look at. We're always looking at tomorrow's picture when Masai is probably looking at next season already and thinking like, oh, I have some moves to make in the summer. And it's like, okay, let's just like enjoy the ride. We have a cool little team with like, you know, a lot of great players. I love our starting lineup. I actually really like our bench, and I just think they're underperforming for whatever reason. But if we could just get some productivity out of the bench with the Poeltl addition, I think we could actually be a kind of scary team in the first round. I don't know if we can win, but I don't think we're a team that people want to play in the first round just because we're going to wear them out, if anything. You know what I mean? We play pretty good defense, and OG's like a monster right now too. So if he just keeps ramping up and we see like, you know, what we've always wanted to see from OG in the playoffs, and just kind of he lives up to all this hype that we know he's capable of, then we could have a little run. It might be fun.
Yeah,
there would be nothing sweeter than beating the Celtics in a 3-6 or something, or a 2-7. Ooh,
oh my god! Ooh. Listen, it's like the optimist
Agreed.
in me and the like hopeful Raptors fan wants our own like we believe Warriors scenario so badly, and for sure upsetting Boston. Like I don't even know if I would want to the Raptors to continue. Like I want them to be the first team ever that wins the first round, and then just like we're actually good.
To Costanza the playoffs.
Yeah, that'd be so great. We get like major weird fines. Like it's really a disruptive moment in NBA history. But like, like we do that though. You know, it's like really cool.
The shame of the Celtics then having to carry on in the playoffs because the Raptors forfeit their spot after beating them.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
that
baby.
That would be.
You guys lost twice in the playoffs, like Boston? Really? Twice?
Yeah. or Boston goes on to like win the championship, but it's like, but you lost though.
Yeah. Ooh, the asterisk on that. Just gilded and shiny and underlined and bolded and italicized. No.
Yeah, that's a glittery asterisk for sure.
Barry Bonds level asterisk, although he shouldn't have one. Never mind. Worse than that.
No, this is good. This is what I wanted. But yeah, like I mean, you know, Dan also a lot of good points, and I think we're fans, right? And we're analysts, but it makes sense that we lose sight of the big picture. But I feel like Katie Heindel, who we all know, said this on a podcast a long time ago when the Raptors were like maybe in December, like it's like some of the worst struggles, is that most of the issues with this team are practical, not theoretical. And I think that's still largely true. Maybe I'll add a little caveat that I do think some of the redundancy has been rough. But big picture stuff, if this front office really believes they can turn Precious into Scotty into like okay 3-point shooters sort of thing, but it's a multi-year process, or Banton, but I don't know, Banton's really kind of fallen out, so I'm not too sure about him. But I think like that, those things, like if Precious or Scotty can shoot 32% from 3 next year, that's a major change, right? If Pascal, is less running the offense, shooting more spot up threes, and can shoot that at a league average,
By the way, he's been shooting like 43% on catch and shoot since the Act trade. So like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think he's adjusting really well. And I feel like part of the Pascal conversation that really gets like lost with reactionary fans is this idea of like, what does the number one look like? And, is he the guy? All that kind of shit. But I think it just blows my mind, like as far as a recency thing, that like, people forget that Pascal was on a championship team. And he
had 4 bad games, Freddie. He has to be cast into the sun. He's bad.
You're right. No.
Yeah.
Banish him. It's wild. And I think like, even a guy like Fred, right, is sort of, he pounds the ball. He is a bad shooter now. And, his hips hurt, and it's always going to be hurt. Like sort of these momentary things that take over the zeitgeist in a negative way. You see someone like Poeltl here, and you're like, oh, wait a second. Fred has like a roll option and a lob option, and
he gets to play basketball the way it was intended to be played. What?
Yeah. But just to sort of wrap this up to your point as well, Dan, about the Raptors being a hard out. Like, yeah, I mean, as much as I want them to upset someone, I'm not going to go there. But I do think that I've been just hammering this point for years now, but I feel like the NBA is in a parity era that really, is only existed. Like the last time it was like, there was this much parity was like the 70s. And if the two teams that make the finals are not the Warriors and not the Celtics, then there's a tie for 4 years in a row, completely new teams in the finals. And even if you look at, sort of the team plus minus, or the net rating rather, it's just not that high. Like there's no team that's like crushing everybody. Obviously for periods there are, but like over the balance of the season, right? Like what the Nuggets are on was it a 5-game losing streak? But I think we covered a lot of shit. Do you guys want to add anything before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to sort of on that idea of like everyone kind of being equal levels of bad or meh or mediocre. Like the vision here for the Raptors, it doesn't seem all that crazy, right? Because I think
I agree.
What they seem to be wanting to do is do what they did to great effect a decade ago, which is build a team that's not necessarily a contender. Like, I don't think anyone ever looked at the DeMar Kyle teams and were like, that's a legit contender that's definitely winning a title or making the finals. Like, they got cute a couple years, but come on. But I don't think you can build an NBA team with, we're going to be a contender in mind, because you really can only do that if you have one of 7 players on Earth. It's just how it works. And so this whole sort of concept of must tank to get players so we can become title contender, it's so fraught because there's just the odds that you get one of those guys are so slim. The way you do it, which the Raptors have proven is a perfectly viable way to do it, is build a pretty good team. Build a playoff competent team. Be good, be relevant, hang in the conversation, and then with your abundance of good players, make a move when the time is right to jump up into that stratosphere, or wait until random NBA weirdness gives you a pathway to the finals, like the Kings might have this year in the Western Conference, which is full of NBA weirdness. Like, I think that's the thing Raptors fans have to like recalibrate their brains for, at least a lot of the people I interact with on YouTube comments and stuff, is like, just because they won the title in 2019 doesn't mean it's just like easy to go get that team. Like they had Kawhi Leonard. He was one of the best players alive. It took years and years of careful building to get to the spot where you could make that move. Yeah. And they have to thread the needle this offseason for sure. They could lose all their pending UFAs for nothing, and it could be a total disaster. That's on the table. But if they can thread the needle, keep this team more or less together, it's back on track to me of, that's what the goal is and has been for this front office for ages. And it seemed a little wonky in the middle of this season. Yak seems to have put everything back into focus, and they can absolutely go and fulfill that multi-year vision, which they did again just a decade ago, less than that, of building over time into something that eventually gets lucky in a league where you have to get insanely lucky to even sniff potentially winning.
Just a quick question for both you guys. Sorry, just because you brought up the UFAs and possibly losing them. Like, do you think that that's a real possibility? Because, like, in my head, do you think Masai didn't make like some sort of like a secret deal? Like, I just feel like these things happen and we don't hear about them. But like, I don't think Masai like does certain things this season, not knowing something about the off season and these players. Like, you know, maybe there was like a sign and trade agreement, like that might come into effect if that happens or something like that. I'm not sure that like the possibility of like us really messing up that bad is even a thing, really. You know what I mean? Like, and it absolutely could be. I don't know. I'm actually asking because I wonder if that's the type of thing that happens when you're a really good businessman and you're like, okay, I have this thing here. This could happen. Let me try to like fight that problem way early. You know what I mean? Like fight that thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, Freddie, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. Like, I don't think they make the moves they did at the deadline without at least like a cursory conversation with the agents of Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet and Jakob Poeltl. I think the Yak thing feels like a foregone conclusion. He seems to want to be here, and I think he's probably going to sign for less than maybe his absurd numbers since arriving and his absurd on-offs might suggest he should earn on the open market. I think he just kind of wants to be here and play with his friend Pascal. Fred, I think it was always more of a durability and health thing than anything else, and was the start of this season just like an ill-timed slump timed with injury and bad luck and the team not playing very well and being kind of misshapen. I think it's been proven that, yeah, it probably was, and he's actually, closer to the all-star level player. Even if he's never an all-star again, he's closer to that guy than he is the sort of busted mess that we saw for long stretches to start this year. Gary's the interesting one, because I think, I really think he's bought in super, I think it's been underrated the way he's bought in this season, where he's just kind of be like, yeah, I got called out by Nick Nurse in week 2. Ever since then, I've kind of been, just buying in, coming in off the bench, not commandeering the offense in a way that's damaging, just kind of taking my shots in the flow. I know I'm going to get shots in the flow. I know even if I'm coming off the bench, I'm going to play 30 minutes. I'm going to close a lot of games. And I feel like they've already started the sort of the wooing process of keeping Gary Trent Jr. around as their 6-man long term. And I don't think there's a very strong market for a guy like that either right now. Not a lot of teams with cap space. There's like 7 teams with cap space. All of them stink. One of them is the Rockets, who only employ Gary Trent Jr. right now, in that they are one-way 2 guards and who don't pass. And so I just don't see there being a landing spot for a cap space team. And he's not the kind of player that a team is going to hand cut themselves with a hard cap and stuff for a sign and trade. He's not that good. And so I think he's going to look around. The market's not going to be huge. He's going to look at Jakob Poeltl making $18 million a year, and he's not going to be able to say, give me more than that, because he's not Jakob Poeltl. And I feel like they're going to get Gary back on a pretty surprisingly cheap deal. And it might be like a 2-year deal. Maybe he tests the waters in a couple of years again. But I think that's honestly the most likely. And if Gary does walk, I think it's because the Raptors are okay with it, because he's kind of a one-way guy. He is probably the most easy to replace type of player in the league, even if I love Gary. Everyone loves Gary. He's super fun when he's on a heater. But I think if he walks, it's because the Raptors have sort of done the math on it and said, you know what, this is fine. And I feel like Fred and Yak at this point are probably like foregone conclusions to return.
Right. Yeah, as I said in the intro, I generally agree with Sean all the time, and I also do hear.
What a horrible decision you've made to make
I
this a
know.
character trait. Oh my goodness.
But really, though, the extension offer for Poeltl was $15 million a year, which he obviously said no to. So the Raptors, they have to top that in a non-insulting way. So 18 sounds fine. Fred, we've seen this story, right? Oh, the Orlando Magic are gonna pay Fred $30 million a year. No, they're not.
Yeah.
All these other teams are gonna max out Fred. No, they're not.
The one team that's hornier for long dudes than the Raptors are, the Orlando Magic, is going to go sign the short king. Yeah, for sure. Definitely happening.
Yeah, and I'm, hey, Fred, you bet on yourself. Like, go get the bag, right? Of course. But, like, I feel like if that's the case, then we're in sign and trade scenario. And Masai, to your, initial thing, Dan, it has gone both ways, right? There's times where it's like, player X is 100% leaving. And they leave like Kawhi. And then there's been like, we're going to lose Kyle. But he ends up signing for $10 million a year instead of, going to San Antonio or Miami or whatever. So I think there's evidence in both ways. And, I do think Gary is sort of the harder one to calculate because he's been a Raptor not as long, but back to Sean's point, like the market is kind of going to dictate all that. And yeah, just before I move on here, I also agree with Sean with team building, but I think people are stuck in the the treadmill Atlanta Hawks team, that kind of like philosophy without realizing that that's how the Raptors won a championship. But I mean, I digress.
They just put their belief behind a real point guard and not Trae Young.
Yeah. Well, and sorry, last little point too is, listen, we all need the draft. The draft is important. Like whoever the Raptors draft in the teens this year is going to be an important part of our team. It really presents this kind of like false idea of a linear build. And I think that, when it comes to like trade everyone to build around Scotty or blah, 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 just like, let's start over. I think that to me, it's kind of like insecurity and escapism, and losing's really hard. And I think that watching a team underperform sucks. So if that's where you got to turn, fair enough, but I just don't think it's like rational or intelligent, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And like, it's just development is, whatever, like Precious was wild last year, this year, not the same. So I think these things take time, right? Okay, that's the pod, though, guys. Thank you both so much for doing it. Maddie, I'm going to bring you in here, but just in the meantime, let's do some fun plugs. Dan, what's up? Obviously, you got the album, but let everyone know what they got to know.
Yeah, I got an album coming out called Interdimensional, streaming everywhere on April 1st. You can come out to the album release show on April 2nd at the Supermarket in Toronto if you live in Toronto. And my Instagram is at DG Special and at Interdimensional, and Twitter's at The Real Dan Galea.
Amazing. Check that out. I will be there. It's going to be a fun times. Good musicians, good comedy. Sean, what's up? What do you feel like plugging?
There's only one thing, baby. Locked On Raptors every day, Monday to Friday. YouTube, your favorite podcast apps, all that good stuff. It's always appreciated if you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I don't really care if you watch the videos. Just help me boost the numbers. That's really all I'm in this for. So yeah,
juice those numbers,
me, man.
People. No problem.
Please juice the numbers.
Come on, juice the numbers. Okay. This is a fun pod. Thanks, guys. Matty D, I'll throw to you. Let people know the goods.
Yeah, go to raptorsrepublic.com. We've got this paywall thingy-dingy, $6 a month, price of a chicken Big Mac. You can get some really sorry,
that's a new one.
Thrown.
That's good.
I did not the chicken Big Mac came out of nowhere. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's thrown me off. $6 a month for premium content. The guys are writing really good stuff, and don't worry, you're not paying for us, you're paying for them. So make sure to go and support at Raptors Republic, and as well you can go to dunkspodcast.com If you watched what you liked on YouTube, go and listen to the full episode of the podcast on your favorite podcatcher. And that is it for me.
Amazing. And we collectively have been the Chicken Big Mac boys. Thank you so much. Check out your local
Just trying to
Chicken
stay
Big
current.
Mac. Okay. Again, thanks so much for the support, everyone. Subscribe, like, hit up our Patreon, all that shit. Please, thank you. We appreciate it. And Maddie, if you feel like we're done and we're good to go, just give me those words I love so much. Okay.
Okay.
Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.